Welcome everybody. I think we'll start, shall we? So, my name is Byrne, and I just want to welcome you to the third International Irish Narrative Inquiry Conference here in NUI Galway. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how did this all happen and where did it begin, through narrative questions. And it began about 10 years ago when a bunch of people here in NUI Galway got together, mostly students and a couple of scholars, and said, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to read everything that's ever been written about narrative. So that took us a couple of years. And we had great fun, I have to say. Just so we set up a reading group and read the people you're meant to read, in social science in the first instance. And out of that came a number of, with part of it as well, PhD students said, well, I'm going to use a narrative approach in my PhD work, or researchers saying, well, I'm going to have a look at this narrative approach and what does it mean in relation to, the work that was being done here in child and family, in social work, in social theory, and so on, you name it. Narrative was going to fit in. And then Grace O'Grady, who's here. Grace, you want to stand up, say hello? From NUI Maynooth, and Jackie O'Toole from IT Sligo. And regretfully, Jackie cannot be here with us today. But the three of us got together and said, let's write a book. And I said, oh no, I'm not writing a book about narrative inquiry. But that's how it began at that moment in time. I said, let's have a conference. Let's bring everybody who's interested in narrative inquiry in Ireland and elsewhere to Sligo, to Maynooth, and to Galway. And let's have a conversation about narrative. And let's have a conversation about not just about what is it, but very important, and the debates, and let's investigate all of the literature. But let's enjoy it. Because it is at the heart of a lot of what we do in terms of whether you're a quantitative or qualitative researcher, or an artist, or a performer, or a filmmaker, or a photographer. There's a narrative somewhere. And it was that idea that stories give power to narrative. So what's the nature of these stories, and why are they so important? And as I said, we have had a lot of fun. So we've had 3 conferences. So it's an unusual thing, really. It's a conference organised by 3 institutions with institutional support, which is 3 bodies: Grace's, mine, and Jackie's. And then we had another principle around the conference, which was, as well as inviting people to join the conversation around narrative, to have fun, to be creative, to talk to each other, but also it would be cheap. It wasn't going to cost €300 to come to this conference, and we really tried to keep up with that principle. Things have gone on, and PhD students have graduated, and some of them are going to be here tomorrow giving papers inspired by narrative methods. And we did a lot of training as well in methodologies and so on. So our focus is to be multidisciplinary and multi-practitioner and multi-creative. And as I said, really meditating and focusing on stories and their power, and how we deploy them in our research, in our practice, in our writing, in our performance, in our visual work. So what we would like over the next 2 days is for you to enjoy this space of the Institute of Life Course and Society. So we have the run of the place, at least downstairs in the designated rooms. And as you know, some of you have films, or you've got performances, or you want to do poetry, or you want to singing. So to use this, it is an academic conference as well, with you want to give papers and so on. But there's those other spaces of the lunch break, of the tea and coffee breaks. So people have already come to us and said, I'd like to do this, and I'd like to do something else. So please do use the space, use each other, and come and tell us. And if at all we can do it, we'll help you to do it. I want to introduce the team, the local team. As I said, Grace and Jackie O'Toole were the people behind the big idea. And then you always have to have a local team. Now, Gillian Brown was engaged with many of you in the registration of the conference, and she's outside. She's preparing the next surprise for us all. So I'd like to give a warm round of applause to Gillian and all the work that she did. I was asking Bonnie about that word. What's the word again? Press-ganged. Okay. Bonnie Long was press-ganged into helping, as was Simon Warren. Here they are. So Bonnie. And Bonnie's from education. Do you want to say a few words?
No, I'm the bearer of the hashtag for the conference.
She's the hashtag.
It is hashtag Irish Narrative 16. Hashtag Irish Narrative 16. All one word.
Okay. Thanks, Bonnie. And then Simon is from the Centre for Excellence in Learning and Teaching in NUI Galway, and he was also press-ganged. No, not at all.
Oh, yes,
See.
one piece of news. Somebody did leave their phone and their name tag, and it's out on the desk.
Thank you. I was just looking for it, trying to turn off my phone.
There you go. But Kathy Riley volunteered to work. So this is Kathy Riley from Geography. That's the local team. So suffice to say, what I want to do now is to welcome our keynote speaker, Anne Phoenix. And we were absolutely thrilled when Anne said yes. She didn't say, maybe. She said yes. Anne has been very generous in coming to be with us here, and really looking forward to her presentation. The other thing Anne is going to do is tomorrow she'll wander in and out of the various sessions, and she's going to give us her observations of feedback after the paper, so between 5 and 6 tomorrow. And Hilary spotted that it had dropped off the programme for some reason. So, that will be the end of the session tomorrow. So as you know, we're going to have do the conversation, start the conversation now. Ask them loads of questions. Conversations are often driven by questions, comments, observations. So let's join the conversation, join each other in this wonderful conversation about narrative. And so there'll be an opportunity for that. And then there's refreshments and some music for afterwards. And then on the dot at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll start. Okay? Thank you all very much. I'd like to put your hands together to welcome Anne Phoenix. She said to me, do a very short introduction. To welcome Anne. And she is Professor of Psychosocial Studies at the Thomas Coram Research Unit in the University of London, and a person whose work I much admire for the focus on the everyday and the mundane, the ordinary parts of our lives. Thank you very much.